Hey guys, Mustached Tom here, and I'm here to talk about Dynasty Warriors Origins. Now, this is obviously a game that is going to be coming out a little bit later next year. Pretty early on next year, in fact. And it was definitely the Night Owl Gaming, link in the description, to his channel, who brought up one of the initial concerned videos, and I've actually come across another one that I'm currently watching now, but I wanted to form my own thoughts on it, even though they may coincide or fit the other two videos in question. So, just to give the brief history, I jumped in on the Dynasty Warriors train at 3, and as a franchise, I subsequently followed 3 onward to 4, 5, 6, and so on. And with that being said, 6 was the first game that a lot of fans would note would be the first decline in Dynasty Warriors in terms of pure gameplay. And the reason for this was, at the time, was the cloning movesets and the Rembu system itself, the way you fight in its entirety, essentially. These two things, in conjuncture with one another, really set the game back. Now, I've seen some follow-up, attempts at counterclaims saying that how Dynasty Warriors 2 through 5 had the various sword users, and that came about as a sort of discussion about cloning versus very similar movesets, and so on and so forth. Now, while I will say I was a little bit disappointed in Dynasty Warrior 6 myself, more so in the Rembu system more than anything, I found that 7 and 8 moving forward improved in one direction and then did 2 steps back in another completely different direction, making every weapon in the weapon swapping system achievable to any warrior, making almost every warrior ununique. Now, the only thing that pushed that away was the EX attack in 7 and the 2 EX attacks in 8. Now, one could argue that in 8, that technically speaking, since everyone had their own EX attack EX attacks, plural, with each of their own weapons, is that technically speaking, they're still their own unique warrior. And that, to me, translates to the Warriors games, because they share the same moveset from that series. Is that, yes, technically speaking, at least from a gameplay perspective again, and I've seen some complaints about Warriors Orochi 4, but every character, as far as I was concerned, still plays uniquely. So to me, that actually makes it better than 3, even though they did cut certain characters, but all of those are guest characters anyway, so I don't know how I feel about that myself, but again, the more important thing was that each character was unique. And sure, and then the counterclaim being like, oh, some of the weapons are super ridiculous, and, you have Han Guai in his boat, you have most of the Jin characters in their, one of them has, the gun weapon, and I couldn't disagree more with that. I think that the 1 versus 1,000 mentality and the onslaught you are able to commence lends itself to having creative weapons and unique movesets that ought to be, to me, that's where 6 should have started pushing itself way sooner, but here we are, all the way at 8, and only figuring out, we can really mess with weapons and stuff. Now, I have only very briefly played Dynasty Warriors 9 myself, and that game was boring. It was an open world game. They promised a lot. It was very barren. There were definitely some landscaping issues in terms of movement. Dynasty Warriors 9 was definitely a deeper pit in terms of what they were trying to achieve here. And that was right before the eve of now our announcement of the next game, Dynasty Warriors Origins. And based off of all the content that I have seen, I can definitely see where these concerns are coming from based on previous experiences more so. So, obviously, they have already announced that we'll be mostly playing as this protagonist, this amnesia-based protagonist named Zulong, though for whatever reason you can rename him. It seems kind of pointless since he's not customizable, at least that seems to be the inclination thus far, at least from what we have seen thus far. So, already a baffling decision to say the least. Furthermore, it does seem like your main character can possess all the conceivable weapons that are going to be shared among the officers in the game. And only 11 of them, apparently, are going to be playable as these sort of temporary switch characters. Now, I don't even mind that the other known Dynasty Warriors characters are temporary. My issue is that 11? Why? Why would you do that and then NPC all the other famous officers? That makes no sense to me. That, to me, just screams like you don't want your players to play the game a lot, right? I mean, it's confirmed, at least from what I've been seeing, is that you can follow Wei, Shu, or Wu up to a certain point. So there are 3 endings, I would assume, if that's the case. And after the 3, Let's Plays, assumably, that's it. That's the end of Dynasty Warriors Origins. Whereas if you had all those complete characters, it would be like, oh, I want to try going through the character as that, the game as that character, and so on and so forth. Why wouldn't that be the case? And of course, we have already seen the weapon cuts happening yet again. From the trailers and gameplay sections I have seen Zheng Ji with throwing knives instead of her traditional flute weapon, as an example. And furthermore, Zhang He with no longer the claws that he's been robbed of twice now, and now, or even 3 times if. I forget if he had his claws in 9. I do apologize. I forget if he's clawed or not. I know he's been denied his claws previously, definitely in 6. So it is a shame that his claws have been removed, but there are still these fist weapons? It's like, so why not have both of those? I don't understand, right? Same thing with Sun Tzu, in fact. He also has the gloves instead of his typical tonfas. He's another character that was completely cloned in Dynasty Warrior 6, and now he's cloned again. Why? Why aren't tonfas in the video game? Why aren't all these varying weapons in the video game? It seems like they're shrinking the weapon system, and it's like, but why? There's no good reason to do that. You have an influx of weapons. Why would you shrink them? That makes no sense to me. It just makes it less likely that you're gonna want to play with all the weapons, or like the amount of weapons you get. You're just gonna get stuck with them, and then that's it. It's like, why? So, yeah, I can definitely see why this is going to be concerning in terms of, like, how the gameplay is going to surface. From what I've seen from the story, I'm not minding that what's been revealed so far. I think all that's fine. My main concern is focused on the gameplay right now. So there is where that lies. And I've already previously discussed what to me would make the ultimate Warriors Orochi game, I made a previous video about how, you know, keep all those weapons, introduce the newer characters with their weapons, like, more characters, more weapons, and then if you did all that on top of each other, you know, you have your mix of China and Japan to conquer in an Empires mode. And then, you know, you have all your enormous roster with 0 cloned characters. It's like, wouldn't that be the best game, like the best Warriors game conceivable? Like, I don't know. I just feel like there's a free idea for way more money right there, just waiting in the wings. And we have this game coming out where it's like you're revealing things that are just making players more and more concerned with everything you're revealing. And, you know, we've only seen a certain section of NPCs, so we don't know if how many of the characters are additionally going to be cut from the game completely, considering where we're ending, which is Chibi. That's been hard confirmed by the narrative of the context. So all the characters that have been introduced past Chibi are cut. Like, that's confirmed. That's, like, those characters are gone. So Jin is obviously gone, obviously. Like, that's a no-brainer. Other characters, we haven't seen quite a number of them yet, so it's hard to say if they're additionally cut. I would say it's a bit too early on that end to determine who else is cut as even, let alone NPC characters. It's like, so you have this companion system, so why wouldn't you give the player the companion thing with every character that you see? Like, why wouldn't that be the best way to resolve most people's fears with about all these characters, that they're just gonna be existing and not playable, though? It's like, I don't know. Again, it's definitely creating a lot more concerns than I think this game ever needed to. So yeah, that's where I think Koei Tecmo should have gone instead. They should have made a Warriors Orochi 5 instead, quite frankly. But I think there is going to be an extent of players that will see it being titled Origins instead of titling it Dynasty Warriors 10, and they'll probably be a lot more forgiving in that regard, I think. Maybe. To me, I think that's a lazy excuse, to be honest. I think that that's a scapegoat, if I'm being for real. So that, the gameplay for this character, the Julian, whatever his name is, it better be spectacular, and from what I've seen thus far, it does look good. So, you know, that has to maintain, obviously, for me to even, to me to be like, yeah, this is a good game. But there's definitely a lot of baffling decisions that come alongside it, just like 6 and 9. Now, I will not say that this does not currently look like the Disaster 9 ended up being. That does not look like that's the case yet, from the gameplay I've seen. I don't remember them showing off gameplay from 9. I only remember the trailers back when that was coming out, so I think that there was definitely this more so hidden way about, like, what we're seeing versus what we were seeing back then. So that tells me that they've been a lot more organized, at least in this sense. But yeah, if Koei Tecmo wants free money, Warriors Orochi 5, or what I called it, Warriors Orochi Empire, rather, I think is like the coolest idea ever. I don't know. Maybe I might be crazy on that one. Maybe that might be too big of a, of a game. Because, right, the current roster of Warriors Orochi 4 is like 100 and something, 120 or 30 characters, all of them with unique weapons. added that to the new roster of who's been introduced since in Dynasty Warriors 9 and Samurai Warriors Spirit of Sanada, and then maybe a few more guest characters, like bringing back the ones from 3. That being the full roster of Warriors, Orochi, 5, or Empires. And on top of all that, I think I suggested, the obvious create a character being as expensive as it has become, with all of the weapons that have been swapped or, forgotten about, like the double maces of Dio Chan, the old mace of Huan Gai, the different sword variants between the old officers that have changed over the years. You have all of these weapons that you're just able to utilize for your created character. From the Samurai Warriors camp, you have the Uichi. She has the little the ball on a cup weapon. It's ridiculous, but why not? One guy has a boat. Why not, right? What was his name? Masamune had the double stick sword, and now he has the singular sword that works as it does now. You have these variant weapons that are all accessible in this one game in your created character, and I think right there, and you give players enough slots to create, an entire roster of characters, and bam, you have the best Empires game / Warriors game ever. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. There you go. Free idea for Koei Tecmo. It's ambitious. Dare I suggest more ambitious than this title seems to be, at least. But anyways, that's my video. And if you ended up enjoying it, then do all the stuff. And until next time, everyone, bye-bye.